Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. Could this be the day the Mbeumo deal is done? Manchester United preparing a second bid that Brentford are expected to accept, and that bid could go into day to get the deal done. Personal terms agreed. There is reports of Tottenham trying to hijack the deal, but I think the chances are unlikely. Manchester United have been linked to goalkeepers as well. Obviously, the goalkeeper situation depends on what happens with Onana. Will he stay? Will he go? One of the goalkeepers we were linked to was Vanja Milinkovic-Savic. AC Milan is now interested in him. So, that could be one to watch. Could we be missing out on a goalkeeper target there? But also, there's updates that United would be willing to let go of Zirkzee to raise funds, raise money, to potentially bring in attacking reinforcements. Now, I've always said, look, I don't want Zirkzee to go anywhere. I want him to have another season. But there's a possibility Zirkzee could go. There's interest from Inter Milan and Zirkzee, as well as Højlund, two different types of strikers, both coming from Italy. So there's sort of a lot to keep an eye on. I've always said I think Højlund's the striker that needs to go. Zirkzee's the striker that I want to keep. I thought Zirkzee showed some real improvement. There's a few other stories that I want to get into in today's show as well. Alejandro Garnacho, 3 Premier League clubs are interested in buying him. Obviously, there's updates in regards to Højlund speaking out about his future, goalkeeper, and more. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to your live Manchester United news, transfer news, and update show. We're going to dive into, first of all, the Mbeumo news, then we're going to get into the Zirkzee news, then we'll get into the live chat. I will get the slides up now, but if you did enjoy today's video, feel free to hit that like button, and of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Is Mbeumo going to Spurs? Probably not. I'm 99.9% sure he's going to be a Manchester United player, and the deal could be done today, and I'm now going to explain why. Oh, one sec. Someone's just put something in the chat, and I just want to check up something. Someone said, have you seen the Greenwood story? What Greenwood story are you talking about? Because obviously there's rumours of Greenwood leaving Marseille, and we have a 40 or 50% sell-on clause on Greenwood, and I'm going to talk about that later in today's show, about the sell-on clauses that we've got. So I don't know what you mean by the Greenwood story, but that could be one to keep an eye on where Greenwood goes, because we're going to get about £2 million for Maxi Odeleye leaving Warsaw. We're going to get about £7 million for Alvaro going to Madrid. We could get about 10-15 million pounds for Elanga going to Newcastle, depending on the fee. And if Greenwood goes, we could be getting in another 10, 15, 20, 30 million pounds in pure profit, depending on the deal. So that could be one to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, let's start by talking about Mbeumo, because that's what we want to discuss. And it was said that Brentford want a similar fee to Cunha. This has been said by Ben Jacobs. This has now been said by the Muppeteers. The Muppeteers have been very accurate with the information they've put out on their YouTube channel, so definitely go check out their YouTube channel, because they go into a lot more detail than I do on the situations and everything going on. Ben Jacobs also said similar this week. They want around 60 to 62.5 million. Talks are progressing. Obviously, as Romano said earlier, the Muppeteers are also confirming that Mbeumo is pushing for the move. He's made it clear he wants to join United. All parties are aligned and working towards the deal, and Brentford and United are close to agreeing a total fee for Mbeumo. Now, we know that Mbeumo, according to the Mirror, has 5 years personal terms agreed with Manchester United with the option to extend. We know that United are preparing a second bid in the 60 million range, which we believe Brentford will accept. And now Manchester United are close to agreeing the total fee with Brentford for Mbeumo. And once that fee is agreed, it's a here we go. Mbeumo's a Man United player, and that could be done today. Now, a couple people are concerned because of an article coming out by the Mirror that Thomas Frank wants Spurs to rival United for Mbeumo. Frank is close to being appointed as Postecoglou's successor at Tottenham, and he's pushing to bring Mbeumo with him to Brentford once the move is more confirmed. First of all, I think because Kulu and Brennan can play on the right, Tottenham would be better off with Visser than Mbeumo. But second of all, David Ornstein confirmed that Mbeumo rejected Tottenham. Remember that. I'm not that worried. A lot of people are saying, oh, once if Tottenham hijacked the Mbeumo deal, once of this, once of that, la, 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 la. But David Ornstein literally said Brian Mbeumo decided he wanted to join Man United. The likes of Arsenal, Newcastle and Tottenham were interested, but he chose Man United. David Ornstein said 4 days ago that Mbeumo chose Man United. And let's be honest, Mbeumo probably had a feeling that Thomas Frank might be at Tottenham when considering Tottenham, but he chose United. We also know that, according to the Mirror, Mbeumo has agreed personal terms to join Manchester United. We also know from Fabrizio Romano that Mbeumo really wants to join Man United. He's dreaming of joining Manchester United, and he's pushing for the move. And Mbeumo has agreed to join Man United. He's chosen us. He's pushing for the move. He originally rejected Tottenham. Just because they get Thomas Frank, I don't think he's going to go back to Tottenham. This is Tottenham we're talking about. Yes, they have UCL football, but this is Tottenham. This isn't Real Madrid. This isn't Barcelona. This is Tottenham Hotspur. If it's Madrid, I get worried. If it's Barcelona, I get worried. Even Liverpool or Chelsea would have me a little bit worried. But this is Tottenham Hotspur. Yes, they have Champions League football. Yes, he could reunite with Thomas Frank. But he wants Manchester United. He's pushing for Manchester United. The only chance I see us bottling the Mbeumo deal is if we took our time and faffed. I think it's the waffle. I said, source the Mirror, don't worry about him to Spurs. I wouldn't worry about it. I would not worry one bit about Mbeumo going to Spurs. I think it's Mirror waffle. I think it's do you know what? The minute we knew we were getting Ruben Amorim, all of a sudden we were looking at Diamonde, all of a sudden we were looking at Hjulman, all of a sudden we wanted Victor Gyökeres, and we still do want Victor Gyökeres, but we're not looking at Diamonde. We're not looking at Hjulman right now. We are looking at Gyökeres. But the minute we got Ruben Amorim, they already decided the 4 sporting players that we wanted to sign. Kenda, we wanted Kenda, we wanted Gyökeres. We never went for Diamonde. We haven't gone in for Hjulman despite links last summer. So I will tell you that now. A journalist goes, "Oh, Thomas Frank is going to go to Tottenham. Who's Brentford's best player? Okay, Brentford's best player is Mbeumo. Let's link Mbeumo to Tottenham." That is the situation. Thomas Frank is leaving Brentford for Tottenham. What is Brentford's best player? Mbeumo. We'll link Mbeumo to Tottenham. These journalists don't know shite. Tottenham have already been rejected by Mbeumo. It's like as soon as we got Amorim in, and we do actually want Victor Gyökeres, but we've got Amorim in, we need a striker, their best player is Victor Gyökeres, let's link Victor Gyökeres to Manchester United. It's very much a Manchester United, it's very much a journalist thing. I actually don't think journalists knew the day we appointed Amorim that he wanted Victor Gyökeres. I think they just assumed that because it would make a lot of sense. I think that Thomas Frank would love Mbeumo at Tottenham, but I don't think Tottenham are going to do anything and rival us for him. Now they've got Thomas Frank because they've already been rejected by the player. So I'm not worried about this as well. I'm only worried if we were taking longer and longer and longer, and then it gives other clubs the possibility to hijack because Mbeumo gets frustrated. But he wants us. And Thomas Frank isn't even there yet. Like, we know he's going to be the next manager, but he's not there yet. We've known he's going to be the next manager for 2 weeks, really. We've had a feeling, but we had to wait for Ange to be sacked to actually know, and it's not confirmed. So yeah, best to get Mbeumo done while this earlier open window is active. Sorry, I misread that. But we need to get Mbeumo done quick. For me, if we can get Cunha and Mbeumo done in this earlier window, bish bash bosh. That's 2 key signings done in this earlier window. We can then work on the sales, getting players out, and then we can go and get the players in striker, midfield, wing-back, goalkeeper that we need to get in. Bear with me one sec. I'm just going to mute my phone because it's making a noise. She's big. But yeah, he rejected Newcastle, Arsenal, and Tottenham. Like, if he wasn't going to go to Man United because we faffed, I still think he would maybe go to Newcastle and Arsenal over Tottenham. Even though Tottenham are in the Champions League, and even though Tottenham have got Thomas Frank, like, I don't know. I think maybe he goes to Tottenham, but I don't know. Like, I'm not worried about Tottenham hijacking Mbeumo. If it was Real Madrid, if it was Barcelona, if it was PSG, okay. But I'm not worried one bit. Like, it's so close to being done. I expect the Mbeumo deal to be done today. I honestly do. There's talk of Leroy Sané being available as a free agent. There is, but again, we're not moving for him. We're not moving for Leroy Sané. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the wages would be quite big as well. Alice, any news on Mainoo? Please say he's staying. In regards to Kobbie Mainoo, this is what you need to know. The chances of Kobbie Mainoo staying are higher than the chances of him leaving. United want him to stay and believe that if they work with him next season on improving his fitness and physical flooring, and he has a good pre-season, he will be key next season and be a big part of the squad next season. There is concerns whether he's a long-term fit for Amorim's system or what his best role is. There is concerns in Mainoo's camp if he'd be better going to a team that plays a 4-3-3. He's not signed a new deal. And that's all, of course, situations going on with Kobbie. But the feeling is he'll stay, and the feeling is he'll be back next season inside the club. But if a club puts in a big bid, United aren't going to say no. Like if Chelsea offered us 80 million for Mainu, I don't think United are going to turn that down. But the chances of him staying is very high. Garnacho is the one that's being pushed out for pure profit and funds, not Mainu. Okay. English journos chat a lot of crap as if they had legit connections to the Portuguese gaffer. Yeah. I mean, there's so many of them chat crap. So many. That's why you listen to Ornstein. That's why you listen to Romano. That's why you listen to Whitwell, because a lot of them are just chat crap at the moment. You know, some of them, you know, we've got some good ones out there. We do, but we've got some that put out a story every day. But yeah, let's dive into some more updates and stories. So I want to talk about Zirkzee. So I'm going to start by getting into this earlier report and then the links that came out today. So Inter Milan are considering making a move for Højlund this summer. Amrin is keen to add attacking reinforcements this summer, and Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee could depart to free up funds. We know there's always been a possibility that Højlund and Zirkzee could go to free up funds. Højlund going is a much stronger possibility. But we've been told nobody's safe at Man United this summer. Joshua Zirkzee's not safe. While Man United aren't actively probably looking to offer Joshua Zirkzee, he's not safe. Because there is interest in Joshua Zirkzee from many clubs in Italy. And this is the thing that we've got to worry about. I will get into this live chat I will get into this chat in a second. I just want to get into the Zirkzee news. Not only Højlund, Inter Milan have also asked Manchester United for Zirkzee. And these are my notes below. I don't want Zirkzee to go anywhere, and I think the club are happy with the improvement he showed this season, but I bet there's a price where Man United go, yeah, we'll sell him. I do think if we got offered the 42 million, which is the price we want for Højlund, for Zirkzee, it would get considered. Like, Inter Milan have interest in Zirkzee. AC Milan have interest in Zirkzee. Juventus have interest in Zirkzee. There's 3 Italian clubs with interest in Zirkzee. And right now, if you're an Italian club, do you want to spend 42 million on Højlund, or do you want to spend 42 million on Zirkzee? I think a lot of Italian clubs would rather spend 42 million on Zirkzee. Juventus, AC, Inter, all interested in Zirkzee. There's even links to Napoli, because Osimhen is leaving Napoli. There's even links to Napoli. Now look, I think Højlund is the more likely of the strikers to leave. But I'd be really disappointed if Zirkzee went before Højlund just because we can sell Zirkzee. There's teams that are interested in Zirkzee. There's teams that will be willing to, I believe, pay 40 million for Zirkzee. Would Manchester United get so desperate that we sell Zirkzee and we keep Højlund? That's what worries me. Zirkzee could go. I think Zirkzee will stay. I don't expect Zirkzee to leave. But right now, we've got Zirkzee, we've got Højlund. Højlund's the one we want out. If nobody's willing to give us 40 million for Højlund, but they're willing to give us 40 million for Zirkzee, because there's more clubs interested in Zirkzee than Højlund, but the clubs realise that Højlund's more available, I do think that Man United might go, we'll take the 40 million for Zirkzee, help us fund this and that. And I don't want to do that because I have a feeling that Zirkzee's going to be really good next season. I have a feeling that Zirkzee, with the right players around him, could be a really good player. I think he showed so much improvement second half of the season. He had a horrible first 3 months, and then he had a really good 3 months, and then he got injured. And he was definitely better than Højlund, his hold-up playing. I think with good players around him, Zirkzee could be really good. I think Zirkzee is one of those, but he relies on his teammates, he relies on the players around him. But I thought he massively improved his physical shape, and I think with good players around him, Zirkzee will succeed. So for me, you know, look, if you get 40, 50 million for Zirkzee, it's a profit. I understand Manchester United selling him. But if Zirkzee's the striker that goes and not Højlund, I will be upset. Now, I don't think Zirkzee will go, but I do think it's a possibility. You know, Zirkzee could be the most surprising exit we have this summer. You know, there could be a surprise exit in Zirkzee. You know, we know, okay, Antony's a goner, Sancho's a goner, Rashford's a goner, Garnacho's a goner, and Nana we want to get rid of. Casemiro could go. We know that with certain players. Okay, we want to get rid of you. We want to get rid of you. You could go. You're not safe. Højlund is not safe. Zirkzee's one of those. We're like Mbeumo. Zirkzee and Mbeumo are one of those where it's like they are in the plan for next season, but they're not key to the plan next season. It's the right bid comes in, and I think United would sell. Now, I personally wouldn't sell Joshua Zirkzee. I would sell Højlund. I believe in Joshua Zirkzee. I strongly do. I just wanted to get into the super chat. Gyökeres is an obvious flop. I was right about Darwin Núñez. Honestly, look, there's definitely concerns with Victor Gyökeres. The penalties he scores, the space he gets, the teams he scores against do come in the lower half of Liga NOS. But I just think he's a striker that knows Amarin's system, was very good at Coventry, got 55 goals last season, creates something out of nothing, is powerful and is a lethal runner. And when we've watched Rasmus Højlund last season, I think Gyökeres is a good move. Darwin Núñez didn't get the numbers Gyökeres got. Gonçalo Ramos didn't get the numbers Gyökeres got. Gyökeres is a risk. Gyökeres for £55 million and high wages is definitely a risk. But look, right now we can't afford Ekitike. We can't afford Benjamin Sesko because they're more than Gyökeres. Victor Osimhen's wage demands are ludicrous. We're in a position now where we've got to debate between Mateta and Gyökeres. For me, it's do we go for Mateta that's 35 million or Gyökeres 55 million? Because Mateta would allow us to bring in a goalkeeper. So you could say, you know what, let's get Mateta and a goalkeeper and leave Gyökeres. Or we could say go for Gyökeres. But I think that Gyökeres will succeed. I think that Gyökeres would be a good signing. I think he will succeed. I think with the amount of goals he got and the amount of chances he creates out of nothing, he will succeed. He might not be amazing. He might get 12 Premier League goals next season. And he might be considered a flop. But 12 Premier League goals is a lot better than the 4 Rasmus Højlund got this season. I feel like whatever happens, he might not live up to the hype. But he knows Amarin's system. He's a lot better than Højlund. And beggars can't be choosers in this striker market. So I'm all for us signing Gyökeres. I have concerns, but I don't think he's going to be another Darwin Núñez. I don't. Darwin Núñez would be better than Højlund, so if Gyökeres can score even half the goals, we're good. Exactly. Do you like Lamine Camara? I've not watched loads of him, but I have been impressed with what I saw. I think he's definitely a talent there as well. Main issue I see with Gyökeres is lacks a bit in the air, surprisingly. The thing that worries me is a lot of his goals have come against the worst teams in his league, where they've given him space that he wouldn't get in the Premier League. That is my only worry. But yeah, Gyökeres hasn't even signed for us. He hasn't even signed for us. Alice, on what planet is Gyökeres a risk? Well, look, we brought Anthony in, and he played under Ten Hag at Ajax, and everyone went, he's not worth the money, but, you know, he knows Ten Hag, he knows his system. Nobody thought Anthony was going to be as bad as he was. Everyone knew it wasn't worth the money. Like, I think when you're signing a player from outside the Premier League, there's always an element of a risk, especially if they've not played in a top 5 league before. Yes, he's played under Ruben Amorim. Yes, he's a very good player. Yes, he's had very good Champions League performances, but there's always a risk. I thought Depay was going to be the next big thing when we signed him. Anthony, we've signed players from the Eredivisie. It's not worked out. It's a risk. But look, it's less of a risk for me than Sesko. Like, I think Sesko, being a young striker, not fully developed, is less of a risk. We need somebody that I think is over the age of 24. We need somebody between 24 and 28 that is a proven goal scorer, regardless of what league the goals are in. I think Sesko and Ekitike would be such a risk because we've seen what young strikers, what has happened to young strikers at United. So I think nearly every signing is a risk. I think Victor Osimhen would be the least risk-free signing, but because of the wages he wants, there's all the red flags. If we signed, Alexander Isak, that's probably the least risk signing. We're never going to get Alexander Isak. There's always an element where Gyökeres will be a risk for Manchester United, but look, he's less of a risk than things, and he's got more ambition than Osimhen as well. So yeah, look, for me, I would like Victor Gyökeres. Osimhen would have been my first pick, but I like Victor Gyökeres. Mateta's probably the other option. He would give us the funds for a goalkeeper. You could let me know down below. Would you rather get Mateta and a 20 million keeper or Gyökeres? And he's got more to his game he's more clinical than Darwin Núñez as well. 55 million, I think, is a decent fee. It's a decent fee. He played for Coventry. He's familiar with the English game, and he was good for Coventry, and he showed lots of good signs. So yeah, look, the Premier League is different. I remember when Sporting played Arsenal, he was atrocious, but I think he'll be all right. I honestly, I look, we haven't even signed Gyökeres. We're talking about, what will Gyökeres be like? What will Gyökeres be like at Man United? We haven't signed the guy. So, we've got Rasmus Højlund playing up top, and all of a sudden we're being negative at the thought of Gyökeres coming in. Like, that's quite crazy when you actually deep it. Like, we've had Rasmus Højlund stinking it up top for a while, and I was a big Højlund supporter to begin with. And now people are concerned about, Gyökeres. Do you know what I mean? I think Gyökeres will be a good signing. If we get him, I think he will be. There's areas of concern, yes. There's areas of risk, yes. But I think Gyökeres will be a good signing. And I don't think there's really many better options out there. I think he realistically could be our best option. So, yeah. I want to talk about Højlund and his exit and what is the latest on that. Romano did confirm that Inter are definitely interested in Rasmus Højlund. Let's see now if clubs can find an agreement, but it's up to Inter. So obviously there's been a lot of talk over the last week of Højlund going to Italy, Højlund leaving Manchester United. There's been a little bit of talk about it. Right now, Inter obviously getting in a new manager, getting new people in. They need to make a decision on Højlund. Højlund is apparently now open to Inter. Manchester United are open to offloading Højlund. They would want to do a permanent deal or a loan with at least an obligation to buy. So it could be a difficult one. But yeah, Højlund to Inter, there's interest there, but it's up to Inter now. It's up to Inter. Do they want to loan Højlund in with a 40 million obligation to buy when they've got Thuram, when they've got, Martinez? Is Højlund going to get loads of minutes? That is the question. It's sort of up to Inter, but yeah, that's the situation with Højlund. Now Højlund actually was asked about his future, and Højlund, when asked about his future, said this: "I have a contract till 2030, so I expect to play for Manchester United." Now, this is the most routine answer. This isn't Højlund going, "I'm 100% staying at Manchester United. I'm going to be there next season." When you're a player that is linked away from your club, and a journalist asks you about it, the most obvious answer is, "I have a contract till 2030, so I expect to play for United." If Højlund had come out in the interview and said, "I'm going to be at Man United next season, I'll 100% be there, the rumours are rubbish," then we can sit there and go, okay, I don't think Højlund's going anywhere. But Højlund just saying, "I have a contract till 2030, I expect to play for Man United next season," is Højlund's basically, in other words, because this is what all the players have to say to journalists, "I might be there, I might not. We'll have to wait and see what happens." If he said, "Bullshit, news is bullshit, 100% be there next season," then you're like, okay, the news is rubbish. But I think Højlund could go, but I think Højlund going is not up to Højlund. I think it's up to the clubs that go into Højlund. Manchester United wants Højlund to be offloaded permanently. Højlund would like to make it work at Manchester United, but I think he's accepted that he at least needs to go away for a year on loan. It's an interesting one because even with Inter, as Alex has mentioned here, they've got Lautaro, they've got Thuram. Why do they want Højlund? I feel like it makes a lot of sense other clubs to go for Højlund. Juventus are set to lose Vlahovic. Could that make more sense? They want someone with lower wages coming in. I think Højlund, he'll go to Italy, he'll improve next season. I don't know if Inter's the best move for him because of the competition. He was third choice striker at Atalanta though when we signed him. It's mad to think we spent 72 million on Atalanta's third choice striker that had 9 goals. It is mad to think that. I always thought, okay, Højlund 50 million, good deal. Højlund should have been no more than 50 million when you include the add-ons, but that's Manchester United. Rasmus were lucky to break even with PSR. I think we need £38 million to break even for Højlund. I think for me, a loan with an option to buy is probably the most realistic option. I really do. Inter just want a loan for backup, likely no intention to ever buy. That's what I think. I think Inter want a loan for backup, and that worries me because if Inter want a loan for backup, that means that he's going to go out on loan for a year, might not play a lot, so his value isn't going to go up. We want Højlund. If we're going to loan out Højlund and it's not going to have an obligation to buy, we must be loaning him out somewhere where we think his value will increase. I'm worried if you loan out Højlund to Inter without an obligation to buy, then his value is just gonna his value could just go down. I think if you loan Højlund out to a club where you know he's going to play with an obligation with an option to buy, that's fine. Loaning Højlund out with an option to buy to a club where you know he's going to play is fine. But to Inter where you know he might not play and he's going to be backup, I would want an obligation. I'd want an obligation for Højlund to go to Inter. I think Juventus would be the best choice. They had some interest in him, but nothing advanced. When did the short window end? I think June 12th. Let me Google that. When does the transfer window open and close? 2025. I think it's June 12th, is it? No, June 10th. So the transfer window closes again on Monday, and then it will open again on June 16th. So there's the transfer window from June 1st to June 10th, end of the Club World Cup. And then it's shut for 6 days and then opens again next Sunday. So, yeah, because the transfer window normally opens mid-June anyway. Closes on Monday, it's shut for 6 days, and then it opens again. I think we forget how good Højlund was in his first season. The next 5 years, he could be the next Gyökeres. I mean, that's the question. That's the thing. I really backed Rasmus Højlund in his first season. I did a tweet basically defending Højlund in his first season, saying, you know what, he got 16 goals, he had no service. I was a big backer of Rasmus Højlund in his first season at Manchester United, but this season was so bad. And obviously a lot of it is confidence. He doesn't get a whole lot of service. I know all of that as well. But like watching him versus Hong Kong and a seen All Stars, and he can't touch the ball. Like it worries me, Hoyland. He's falling over the ball. His touch is off. His shooting is off. When he's getting chances, he's not even being as clinical as he'd like as I he used to be. You know, for me, I said this. This is what I said on Hoyland last year. I'm going to show you my opinions on Hoyland, okay? Because like, I was a big backer of him and a big believer of him. But when you regress this much in a season, for his own good, he needs to go. Like I still believe Hoyland will be a good striker, but I think if he stays at Man United next year, he will be crap for us next year. This is what I wrote. June 30th, so about a year ago, I said I don't understand how some fans have decided Hoyland isn't good enough based on a few Euros game because people were overreacting over the Euros. You know, Kane and Sesko were atrocious at the Euros. If you watched him last season, you would see his quality. He scored 16 goals at age 20, only one less than Jackson, who had a much higher XG created for him. No player age 21 or under got more goals and assists than him last season. He showed his class in the UCL, top scorer in the group stage, and despite receiving almost no service and playing for a poor and sustainable side system, he got 16 goals at 20 in his first season. Hoyland was signed off the back of a 9-goal season as a 19-20-year-old prospect. He is raw and he has room for improvement, but I still think people are forgetting he's a kid. I was a big defender of Hoyland after that first season. This was in 2024. But I've watched them this season, and it's not just about lack of service. It's not just about the fact that he's a kid. It's the fact that when I watch Hoyland on the pitch, he looks so lost. There was enough reason to back him in his first season, and I still believe, and this is why there are teams interested in Hoyland, that, there's still a player there, and I think he will still have a good career. But I feel confidence and the mental side of it is so big that I do think he needs a year away from Manchester United. He needs a solid year away from Manchester United, at least. I think, look, he could go out on loan for a year, come back and be good for us. If he goes on loan, has success, finds good form, finds confidence, he comes back to us in a year's time when we're more sustainable. But I just think he will really struggle. I think he would really struggle next season, if I'm going to be honest. I mean, this is what I wrote about Hoyland the other day, if I can find it. I said I'm really worried about Hoyland. Every part of his game seems to have regressed. You see, even the simple things he just doesn't seem to understand or know what to do, like the passing, the link up. I worry about Hoyland. I just don't think it's for him, Man United right now. And I still believe he's a player. There's a player in there for sure. We were linked to Joan Garcia that's going to rivals Barcelona. True. Need to move on Hoyland, but we need 38 million. Going to be difficult. It is going to be difficult. I'd keep Hoyland with the players we're buying. He would get more service. I don't think it's just about service, though. I think his movement isn't good enough. I think he's just not there. Even like his goals for Denmark are drying up. I think it's a lot of it's in his head. And I think if he got to a new environment, a different coach, and had his confidence back, I think there's a better player there. That's what I think. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Alice, would you want Greenman back at United? No. I know he's top scorer in League 1, but it will just, the voice notes, the audio, whatever it was too graphical. I wouldn't want him back at United. It would cause some upset. And there were some players, and obviously there was an article basically blaming the women's team, but there were some first team players at Manchester United that weren't, didn't like what they saw, So there was a lot of people that wouldn't be comfortable if he came back. But what I do want is Greenwood to leave Marseille for a big fee so we can get a lot of money for Greenwood, because we sold Greenwood for about £25 million, which we should have got more, but the whole situation obviously meant that we had to sell Greenwood on the cheap. But we've got a 40 or 50% sell-on clause. So look, if PSG want to pay 80 million for Greenwood, we'll take the money for that, and that'll be pure profit, and that can help improve the squad. But I wouldn't take him back for the obvious reasons, despite him being a quality player. Like, he was my favourite player before everything went down. Like, I honestly thought he had Ballon d'Or ceiling, but he's only got himself to blame. Let's continue on. There is some links and there is some news in regards to Garnacho going to other Premier League clubs, and one of them is West Ham. So keep an eye out on Aston Villa being interested in Garnacho. Manchester United still value Garnacho at £60 million. So Fabrizio Romano confirmed that Alejandro Garnacho will leave Manchester United. Yesterday, it came out from Fabrizio Romano that he will leave Manchester United. Garnacho will leave Manchester United, confirmed by Romano. Now, he said there's 3 Premier League clubs interested in Alejandro Garnacho, one of which is believed to be Chelsea, the other is believed to be Arsenal, and the third and final, it looks like, according to Ben Jacobs, is Aston Villa. He said, keep an eye on Aston Villa being interested in Garnacho. United still value Garnacho at 60 million. Now, Aston Villa have PSR issues, so I don't know how much money they'd be willing to spend. And I feel like surely they would just go for Rashford if they can get him over Garnacho. But I guess because of wages, they may swing more towards Garnacho. I'd say, look, if they're not willing to give us 60 million for Garnacho, give us a bit of money, give us Amadou Onana, and you can have a deal. Some people say we should ask for Emi Martinez in return. I'm not that bothered about Emi Martinez. I think he's an overrated keeper. If I'm being totally honest, I think. Oh yeah, sorry. The transfer window closes on Tuesday, not Monday. Tuesday. I kept thinking it was Saturday. The transfer window closes on Tuesday. It will open again the following Monday. Sorry, my bad. I would, I would look to sell Garnacho for 60 million. I think it will be 50 million base with add-ons taking it to 60 million because I think teams will want to take advantage of the situation that we're in. But yeah, look, we sort of need more clubs interested in Garnacho. 3 Premier League clubs, Bayer Leverkusen and reportedly Napoli, all being interested in Garnacho is good for us because it will drive the price up. Teams want to get him on the cheap because he's been kicked out of Man United. We need a lot of teams interested to drive the price up. Thank you very much for the super chat. Hoyland Bummer Bums is gone. You lot who wanted him to stay, haha, real talk. Was he ever good? We who saw he was useless from day one won the war. I mean, I don't like that way of thinking. It's like you're suggesting you saw Hoyland wasn't good enough within 3-4 games and you're happy now because you're proven right. Surely you'd rather be proven wrong and you know what I mean, and be happy that Hoyland has ended up being a good signing rather than 70 million, unless I'm misinterpreting that wrong. Like for me, I think it was good as a fan base that we've got behind Hoyland after his first season. If we write off every young player that gets signed by Manchester United in this unstable environment that kills careers after 3-4 games, then we're writing off those players, then we're not helping those players either. We're wrecking those players' confidence. I feel like we should always get behind every player and every signing in the first season. I always say, first season we can be lenient, second season we judge. Zirkzee was really bad in his first couple of months, but I said, look, we cannot judge him after 2 months. We cannot judge him after 3 months. Yes, there will be players that after 2 months we think are shite, and then they're here 2 years and they've been shite the whole 2 years, and we can be correct in that. But I always feel as a fan base, every player that comes in, we should fully back them in their first season, unless they're a player in their prime on Alexis Sanchez type wages, and then we can tell them to adios. But if a young player's coming in, a player that's taking a step up is coming in, we should always get behind them in their first season. Second season is when they have to up their game. And if they don't up their game in the second season, we can change our opinion on that. That's how I feel about the whole situation. So, look, Rasmus Højlund has 16 goals in his first season. No service. Promising signs. Was Rasmus Højlund the real deal in his first season? No. Was I saying this time last year we need to sign a striker so Højlund can be back up and learn from that striker? Absolutely. I wasn't saying after Højlund's first season, Højlund is the guy. Højlund's the real deal. I was saying, I'm seeing encouraging signs from Højlund. Let's not completely write him off. Let's get an experienced striker to come in that Højlund can learn from, and we're not relying on him to be our number 9 week in, week out. That's what I said, and I stick with that. Right now, his second season's been so bad that I think he needs out, but I don't think it's a case of like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we shouldn't write people off after their first season. So I personally disagree of turning. Look, did he go like 20 Premier League games without a goal? Was it like 14 Premier League games without a goal? Yes, but he was a young player. But look, he needs to go. He's not been good. Alice, but our Nana goalkeeper needs to go as well. Look, for me, we need Cunha and Mbeumo coming in. We need a striker to replace Højlund. We need a goalkeeper to replace Onana, and we need a really good midfielder. It'd also be nice to see. A wing back as well. But we just got to look at it like that. We just got to look a bit. We should get Højlund out. Yeah, I wouldn't get Zirkzee out. No. Would you get Emi Martinez? I'm not the biggest fan, but it depends on the fee. Yeah. Anyway, people. Oh, when does Diego Leon come? Diego Leon comes I think June 11th or June 12th. I think he's going to come like the second week of June, apparently. I mean, again, I don't know the situation on that, but it looks like he could be coming the second week of June. I think, because I don't know if the club announced. Did the club ever announce him? Like, he came, he had a medical. We had the here we go, but I don't actually think the club ever announced it. Like, to off the top of my head, like, did we ever announce that deal? I don't know. But rounding up the news, the Mbeumo deal could be done today. This could be the day the Mbeumo deal's done. It's close to agreement. We're close to agreeing a fee with Brentford. Once the fee's agreed with Brentford and Mbeumo's a Man United player, that could be done today. We could get an Ornstein or Romano bomber on that today. Zirkzee, there's interest from clubs. United could sell Zirkzee. Zirkzee staying isn't a guarantee, but it's more likely that Zirkzee will stay. But it could be easier to sell Zirkzee than Højlund, which may put us in a situation where we could lose Zirkzee. I think Zirkzee will stay. There's interest in Garnacho. Obviously, there's been links to Emi Martinez, of course, and Onana going, but United can't move for a goalkeeper until Onana goes. We can move for a good second keeper if Bayindir goes, and Bayindir is expected to go. So yeah, that is all your latest Manchester United news rounded up in today's live show. Big up to everybody that was watching. The lack of focus on wing-backs shows how badly we need certain upgrades. I agree, because we do massively need a wing-back. Big up everybody in the chat. I thought this was a really good live stream. I will be back around 5-6 o'clock with another show. Thank you for watching. Bye.